So today is going to be a day in the shop type video, and this is what I have going on. First off, I've got my board here, and I'm going to be doing some experiments with some cams. So I'm going to be setting up and making some hard plastic versions of all these old cam profiles that we've come up with, so I'll have to show you that. The other thing I'm trying to do today is I'm going to start making a new chair. This is not directly longboard related, but I did years back when I started this project. I had a video up about it, and this is kind of those who were curious about where that ended up. This is where it's at now. I've got a chair that works pretty well, but I want to make a new version of this, hopefully, at least the frameworks of it. And I was going to try to cut out some brain cleaners today, but I left the template at my house. I forgot I don't have it here. So I'm not going to be able to do that. That was kind of going to be my main goal. So today my main goal is actually going to be the cams. So let me show you what the goal is with that. Okay, so here's the deal with the cams. So I've been riding this board a lot lately, and I've actually started picking up on pumping it. But I was thinking about ways I can make it a little more effective now that I've kind of started to figure it out. So what I was first going to do is make some new radiused freestyle cams in them for them, and that would make it easier for me to turn, because what I'm doing to pump and how I'm making it work is I'm getting way down all the way to the edge and then swinging my weight in that direction. So to make it more efficient, I need to be bottoming out and going edge to edge as efficiently as possible and as quickly as possible. So that was the idea with that. So I was going to modify some cams. But then I had this idea that instead of using these neoprene cams, because of the experiments I've done in the past, I've since figured out that basically that you get the turning characteristics you want mostly from the front, and as far as truck's concerned, the stability comes from the rear. So I decided that I could use a hard plastic cam in the front, which we've done before and has always been a bad idea. But whenever we've experimented with that in the past, we've always done it with both the front and the rear truck at the same time. So my big breakthrough, and the reason I want to open this experiment, is because I want to try having just a regular neoprene cam in the rear and the hard plastic cam in the front. So the problem with plastic cams we've had in the past is that because they're so hard, there's so little rolling resistance that as you're turning, instead of losing energy and slowing down to give you some stability, it just rolls right past the neutral point in the center, and it just makes it so, I mean, you see how rocky that is? It goes just back and forth. And compare that to the neoprene cam, which just has so much less. See this one too. And this one's got a little more. I should center the camera probably. But yeah, because it's soft rubber, it's got some rolling drag, and with hard material, there's just so much energy return. It introduces speed wobble, even though, and not just speed wobble, but all sorts of weird things to the setup, even though it's got this raising center of gravity. So my goal is to go back through all the different cam shapes we've gone through in the past. This is our free ride. This is our, I don't know what the GS stands for, but this is a GS shape. These are these are old cams that someone's beat up. Anyway, some other designs. These ones are unlabeled, but these are a free ride design. These ones are M1 free ride. Another type of M1 free ride. Alright, so we've got all sorts of, one more just stray down here. All sorts of old cam shapes. And this one too. to experiment with and try with a new hard plastic cam. So I think it's going to be really cool to kind of go through our old catalog of experiments and apply something new to them. So what I've got here is one long blank that is the size and width of the cam. And so what I've got to do now is really simple. I just take a cam out of each bag, trace it out, and then I cut it out on the bandsaw and finish it off on the sander and cut a notch into it. And I'll have a big pile of cams of all different shapes out of this plastic. So these are the ones I've cut out, and I've marked the ones I can mark. A few of them are unlabeled, and I've also did these two other designs. This is the chopped cam, like the one I had originally in this board, which I don't expect to work very well, but I'm going to try it anyway. And then I've got this one, which is basically, it's almost perfectly flat, just to see how it's going to deform and how much it's going to crunch, and how much the shape is going to change. And then I've also got two of my custom shape that I make, and because I want to use one as a template, so I'll just stick this in a drawer somewhere, and when I want to make more neoprene cams, I can trace this one. So there's all those cams all ready to go. So the goal of this is I'm meeting with Mark on Monday or Tuesday, and Mark's the old engineer that we worked with to help make the OP trucks, and I'm going to give him all these. Going to give him all these for him to try out, and so this is just some stuff for him to experiment with and have fun with. So these are going off to the professor. I'm keeping this one, and because I really like what I've got going with this one. And then I'm going to have to make a video sometime of me riding this thing once I get pumping a little bit more dialed. So yeah, there's that part of the project done for today. So now, onto the chair. All right, so let's talk about the chair for a moment. So this is the chain chair Mark IV, which means that there have been 3 other prototypes that came before this. But this is the first one that's been furniture in any way. The other ones were just plain, straight up prototypes that were never meant to ever be really used. They were just kind of props to sit in and contemplate the changes. This one I've actually been able to use, which has been really nice. So some features of it that are cool, that I really like, make it good, is first off, as you can see, it stands up by itself if you're not sitting in it. So a lot of other chairs, if you're not sitting in it, they go bloop. They lean back on the ground and just go bloop. And this one doesn't. It does stay down, which is nice. It's also very lightweight. A lot of other chairs that do stay upright do this by having a literal bag of rocks right here in the front. I don't have a bag of rocks. I just made the back really light, which works really good. Let's see, one of the other good things is it's got these plastic rails on the bottom, which is really nice because when you sit down in it, you can move around on those. Those slide on the carpet really easily, which is really good. It's also very comfortable the way it rocks. Feels really good, but it has a few problems with it as well. The main one that I want to try to address with this build is it's not very comfortable. It's got this bender board for the whole shape of the back. It's a very rigid chair, and it's not that comfortable. In fact, after about half an hour, it becomes quite uncomfortable to sit on that. So one of the changes I want to make is change from this rigid, hard design to something where I put webbing across, and so it's a webbed chair, and that's going to need some tweaking. So one of the other changes I want to make is this right here in the front. It touches past here, touches your legs when you're leaning back, and that gets uncomfortable too. And I think, yeah, I think that needs to go. There's something iffy going on right in the small part of the smallest part right here, which I'm not sure how to address, so I might just leave that alone for now. And the last thing that needs to be changed is the neutral point of the chair is in the wrong spot. So the neutral point is here, right? The neutral part of the rock is right here. And that's good for a very upright chair, but the position where you use it tends to be a few degrees further back. So not here, but here. So I need to rotate the rocker relative to the seat a little bit in the new design, just from here to here. And that'd be really good. There's a few other small things, like the fact that I feel like it'd be nice to have something barely touching your elbows. So it was just a tiny bit wider here so that your elbows could rest on it, but not so wide that you couldn't put your elbows off again. So just a tiny bit wider right above your hips, so you can rest. There's something on your chair. We'll try to illustrate just on this one side. So maybe wide enough to have something like this, but then still enough to go like that, right? Even less than that. So yeah, right here. Just barely more than what it's got. And then the last thing is the back of the chair for the neck. I think the support here could go up to about here. I want to have freedom of movement for the shoulders, but I think I could go a little more further up to get a little bit more support for just below the neck. So just another 2 inches or so. And I think that's all the changes I need to make. But it's going to be tricky because some of these are not just alterations of the shape, they're going to require actual fundamental changes to the design. Example, the webbing. Right now, the chair is being held together by this, right? And I'm going to be getting rid of this, so it's going to have some other way to frame the rails together. The other thing is the way I've done this back for behind the shoulders and head. If I have got webbing, well, it's built onto this piece of wood here too. So what's that going to be attached to once I change that to webbing? And then the other one is, after I've made all these changes, it's going to change the weight of the chair. So I've got to figure out a way to make it so it is self-righting still with all these changes. Oh, and then the last change would be nice to make, but I don't think I'll do it for this version, is ultimately I want the hinge and the chair is foldable. So it becomes very compact. So that's all the changes I need to be making to the chair. So I just got to figure out how to do it all and see how far along I can get today. Oh, one other feature to this chair I should point out, it's really cool. It makes it really nice. Good banana chair design here. Okay, so it's narrow enough right here that you can stick your feet to the side and stand up like that. That's a big deal. It's such a nice little thing that a lot of people don't think about. And the other thing that's really nice is even though these rails are flat, it actually tapers in. So it's a lot wider at the bottom than it is at the top. And that's part of the reason why I'm able to get the weight at the bottom to be heavier. So there we go. That's all the things I think to say about the chair and all the design nuances that I can think of at the top of my head. So yeah, so let's get to building. Okay, so here's how this is going to go down. This is the new wood that I'm going to make the new chair with. There's the old chair, so I can sit down and reference it and figure out the changes in my mind. This is the template for the rails that this chair was cut from. And I'm going to use this to make a new template for the new chair. And I'm going to have to move it around and retrace stuff, but this is my main reference that I'm going to modify for the new chair. And this is actually the center rail from the third prototype chair. And this template was based off this physical piece here. And the important piece here is this profile. So I'm probably not going to need this because this should be an accurate representation of that profile there. But it's there in case I want to double check and cross check it. So I've just got to trace things out and figure things out in my head and figure them out on paper, and I'm not going to film that because that'll allow me to think better and have more freedom just to think and work it out. So we'll see how it turns out. So here's what I've got so far. This is the original template. This is the new design that I've got to cut out. And what I've done is I put a pin on the neutral point of the rocker or the cam, and I rotated it about 5 or 6 degrees, which I measured on the chair as best I could to what it needed to be. So that changes the shape of the base, and it's this line right here, the middle one. That's the new line. I'm going to have the base cut out like this, so there's going to be empty space here, and hopefully that'll be strong enough. We'll see. And I changed the shape of the isham, the small of the chair right there, and I'm adding a tiny bit of support behind the small of the back. So that is the design. So I just got to cut it out now. All right, so there we go. That's the chair base frame, I guess. So you can see it leans farther back now, but a lot of that is actually because the base is not as heavy anymore. But yeah, I think it looks pretty good. It's pretty interesting. So now I've just got to construct the rest of the frame so that it's got, you know, an open gap, basically, is what it needs. So I'll have to figure that out. That's going to be pretty tricky. I've also, I'll show you this real quick. I've cut in lines on this that run perpendicular to it, and those are so that when I put it together, I can, you know, when I put it together and they're spread apart, I can line them up correctly and make sure that they're not skewed in any way. So those are just markings for that. So we'll see how this turns out, but it's looking good so far. All right, so this is the progress update. I've got this all framed up really basically with these temporary pieces just to get the spacing right. So now I've got the spacing set, I can cut more permanent pieces to fit into the shape it's got. And that'll be really good. It's also kind of skewed right now, but I'll be able to fix that as I fix it. I don't have the frame for this part behind the back of the shoulders yet, but I think I'm just going to make something out of plywood. I'll shape it and anyway, it'll kind of be carved, sort of. So it'll be an effect sort of like it is here. It's lightweight. It's very light. It's about 2/3 the weight of this one, which is pretty good. I think it'll end up being a lot closer to that at the end, but right now it's pretty light. I did put a hinge in it. I think that's it's gonna be pretty cool. I mean, look at that. How small it's gonna be. Little chair. So it's gonna be sweet. The ultimate little game chair. So this is where we're at. I've put the webbing on. You can see it's got orange webbing on the top piece, and it's got black webbing on the bottom. It makes it a little harder to see on the bottom, but there we go. Quink. And on the top, I've just got this really lightweight fabric. Stay open. There we go. Good. Okay. So I've just got this lightweight fabric to kind of distribute the load a little bit. And on top of that, I'm going to be putting foam. And then on top of that, the finished fabric surface, which I'm probably going to, if this works out, and it looks like it's going to be worth doing, I might get some like cheap pleather stuff. And I think that'll be pretty cool. I have to wait until it dries overnight before I can sit in it, so I'm not quite sure how well this is working out or what modifications I'm going to need. I think, let's take a look at this. Yeah, the seat, yeah, see how much more open the seat is? So the hinge, it's only a few degrees, but yeah, the way the hinge introduces a little slop, it opens more than it should. So I'm going to have to put some shims in there so that it holds at the right depth. But yeah, it's really good. It is extremely light. It's, oh man, like this thing was light, but this thing is just insanely light. Like it's a pinky, easily a pinky. Yeah. Very light, which is really sweet. It stands up really well, gets out of the way. I'm just really happy with it so far. I just don't know. I mean, I haven't been able to sit in it yet to see if it's going to work out, but I think I found a really good direction. The one thing I want to figure out too is there's got to be an easier, better way to do it than with this strapping for the webbing. But yeah, I just did this because this is what my original chair that I bought had, and because I thought that'd be the easiest. I'm not sure it's going to be the easiest. I think there's something better. I'm not very impressed with this so far, but it should work for now. That's all I need to do right now, is just to work for now, and that'll be fine. So there we go. Now I just need to clean up. I'm done for today. It's been a long day. It's now just a little after 9. I started at about 1. So I've been here about 8 hours, but I did get a lot done. I'm really happy with those cams I've got. I'm really happy with this. This isn't longboard related, but it is based on the rocking is based or built from our knowledge and experience with cams to get the perfect rocking profile. But yeah, now I've just got to clean up and go home and eat. So there we go. Longboard technology, over and out.